Let's break down the pivot, which is another important area. I'm assuming we've already made our short, quick stride, about 6 inches. The next step is the pivot. And by pivot, all I mean is turning off the back leg. This is a really important area because what you're going to be doing is creating the hips to snap open. All we're saying is, when we say snap open, that the hips now are going to face the field of play. How are we going to do that? We are going to turn really hard off that back foot. Now, once again, my weight is not forward and it is not back. It's over the inside of my legs. By doing that, I'm able to lift this foot up. I have good motion here. If I have the weight back, I can't turn it. If I have it forward, now I have no hip thrust. But if I keep it over the center of my body, I can snap through real quick. My hands, my shoulders, my hips all move together. My back foot creates the rotation. As a coach, a good thing to look for is when they're pivoting, look for it's what we call a lazy L. A perfect L, of course, would be like this, but they're in their pivot position. See that lazy L. That way you know they've pivoted around. The back foot now is pointing to the pitcher, and they've thrust their hips open, and hopefully now are extending through to make contact out in front. Let me show it to you in slow motion. Feet comfortably apart, bent at the hips, bent at the knees, hands right over the back shoulder. We've got the A-frame. My arms are flexed because that's going to create the snap through and extension upon contact. All right? I've taken my stride, short one, around 6 inches, pointing somewhere between pitcher and first base. And now all I'm going to do is snap through, right like this. Snap through just like this. Notice my hands are still flexed because now the next step is extension of that club head. Just like this. Now notice my head doesn't pull out like this. Think of my torso having a pull through it. And all I want to do is rotate around that pole or stake. If I have a tendency to do this, the pole or stake will bend. Don't ever let that stake bend. All I'm going to be doing is rotating around it. Now that we have that proper pivot position, we've snapped the hips open. Notice that my hands have gone with me. As my hips have opened, my shoulders have squared open as well. Now, when we talk about hitting, one of the most important things is discipline. Not only discipline in knowing the strike zone, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but discipline of keeping those hands close to the body as we open up. If we open up and extend too early, once again, we're going to get that big looping swing, which we want to try and eliminate in fast-pitch softball. We want a very short, quick extension through the strike zone. If you can do this in practice, constantly practicing this, you're going to find you're going to end up being a better hitter. This is where we have a lot of problems when we want to go ahead and try and hit the ball, make good contact with the ball. This is where we're going to have a lot of problems, is because ball players have a tendency to have their hands leave their body, so to speak. Because what they do is once they pivot, their hands will either drop or they'll stay back as the body wants to come forward. Coaches, make sure that the hands, the shoulders, and the hips turn together. They're turning together. My right side stays nice and high because what I want to do is I want to be swinging down through the ball. If my right side gets lazy, I'm going to have a dipping and I'm going to have a difficult time hitting that ball from this position. Stride, pivot, and the hands come through with the pivot. Hands, shoulder come through. Notice I'm still extended. Now, the last thing that we want to do is to go ahead and extend as quick as we can to hit that ball. As I said, we've got the stance, the stride, and the swing. What's incorporated in the swing is just the rotation or the pivot and extension. Now, this is what you want to look for as a coach when you're teaching the girls how to hit the ball. As they stride and pivot and they're ready to extend, you want to go ahead. Some coaches say point the knob to the level where you're going to hit the ball. Keep your hands inside the level of the ball or the tracking of the ball. So if the ball is coming over here, make sure your hands don't have a tendency to come out here. We call that casting. Ball players that have a tendency to cast where they think their hands are going to actually hit the ball, when in reality, all we want to do is get the club head out in front. The quickest way to do that is from this position right here. I've opened up. This is the shortest distance to there. Not here and not here. Right here. Now all I have to do is extend. Notice that my head, my chin started over my left shoulder, inside my left shoulder, my lead shoulder. It ends up over my right. This is a key point for coaches because you can see if your girls are bailing their head out or not keeping an eye on the ball when it comes into the contact area. So they go from left shoulder to right. Step, pivot, extend. Now my chin and my head are almost looking down my right arm as I extend. As I extend, it's a two-part facet of the swing. I not only extend, this would be extension, then I snap the wrist through. The reason for that is to make sure that the barrel is out in front to make proper contact. If I extend and don't make proper wrist snap, I'm not going to be able to hit that ball squarely. That'll be the ball that I'm going to have trouble on. I'll foul tip it, or I'll be hitting it to the weak side of the infield, and I'm not going to be really snapping through properly. Extension, wrist snap. See the different angle there? You can get away with not a very strong wrist snap if you hit a pitch on the outside, but not a pitch that's over the plate or on the inside. And we're going to break that down on how to hit those various pitches. I've got my A-frame. I've opened up. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to just drive the knob at the level of the pitch, keep my hands inside the ball, not cast my hands out. Casting my hands out, I'm losing my extension. Remember, this is where we're going to drive and get power, is through the extension. Because my hips have created enough speed here, and now I'm just going to extend, wrist snap, and the angle of the bat, contact will be made out in front of my lead foot. If you see girls that are doing this, they're either dropping their hands and they're not getting proper extension. Keep the hands high, right over the shoulder. Higher, just a little bit higher than the strike zone. And as you come and you turn through and extend, wrist snap, and then you're going to have proper extension. The club head will be in front of the hands. The club head is in front of the hands. It's not this. Boom. Boom. Now you got to mention the follow through. But if you have proper extension, wrist snap, you automatically are going to get a good follow through. You want to make sure that once they get the extension, wrist snap, make contact, they wrist roll, they have a wrist rolling effect after contact, the hands roll over, the follow through is somewhere around the shoulder blade area. If I could just turn around and show you the follow through. Stride, hands are in the proper position. I stride, I pivot, keep my hands extended, go through extension, wrist snap, club head out in front, contact made over the lead foot, follow through. Notice that I've gone, my head and my chin have gone from my left shoulder to my right. Upon contact, I'm looking right down the barrel of the bat and follow through. You'll notice that my weight shift was very minimal. I'm going to speed it up right now so you can see how little weight shift is involved. The key to hitting is balance. You're doing a very ballistic, a very quick, powerful motion. The better balance you have, the more fluid your swing is going to be. Another thing that I want to talk about when you're going through your swing is many times we have a problem with our hands. I can't emphasize enough the importance of the hands. So when you get into your practice situation, and we're going to work on some drills later on, I want the coaches to really concentrate when they're talking about upper body, the hand position and keeping the hands still, and the weight shift. If you could break down hitting in those two areas, the stride or weight shift and pivot, and the hand position moving with the shoulders and the hips. Proper stride and proper pivot. Make sure that we grip that bat nice and loosely so we can get a nice wrist roll and follow through. When I break down the swing in slow motion, and I'm talking about extension right through here, you will notice that the palm of my right hand is slightly up. The palm of my left hand, or the bottom hand, is down. Now, coaches, you have to be very careful when you're teaching this, because if you teach the girls to think right hand palm up, you're going to see a lot of this. Look, coach, my palm's up, but look what the back shoulder's doing. So really focus on being strong and high on the right side, coming down through this way. Now, although it looks like my hand is almost waving to the third baseman, this will get them idea of coming down through the ball. But you will notice when we slow down the camera, contact is actually made right here. But as a coach, I would really recommend showing them to snap through just like this. As you make that hand position to simulate the bat, make it coming through just like this. That way they can see that the shoulders are parallel, or the right shoulder is a little bit higher than the left shoulder. Down through here, just like that. So let's review. Proper distance apart, hip or shoulder width apart, balance over the inside or center of our body, knees bent, we've placed ourselves close enough to cover the outside of the plate, hips slightly bent, lead shoulder facing the pitcher, hand position high, a little bit higher than the strike zone. My hands are close to my shoulder. The bat is at a 0 to 30 or 40 degree angle. As I go ahead and stride, my weight shift is minimal once again. Quick step, somewhere around 6 inches, toe pointing between the pitcher and the first baseman. As I go ahead and do that very important pivot, remember that we've got that lazy L. Look at my weight shift once again. It's all over the center of my body. And as my hips thrust open, so do my shoulders, but my hands, my little A-frame stays right here. My hands go with the shoulders. And the last thing I want to do is extend down through. My chin is now in my right shoulder. I extend as quickly as possible. The club head goes from high to low. I get the club head out in front, make contact over my lead foot. Make sure we get that wrist snap right at the end. When you have proper extension and contact, you'll see a nice, good follow-through that ends up over the shoulder blade area.